Hello, poetry lovers. The video tonight shows the creation of a new poem I'm currently calling Christmas Eve. Stick around to the end of the video to see the complete first draft of this new poem. I wrote this poem basically under duress. I had a goal of writing a poem last week, but I was just not feeling it. The holiday was approaching fast, we were taking winter breaks, so both my kids were just kind of wandering around the house all day, and I was mentally exhausted from planning and arranging everything we needed for our Christmas celebration. So I started out feeling like this poem was a little forced. I had no idea where I was going with it, and I felt totally uninspired. But I wanted to end the year writing, so 3 days before Christmas, I sat down right after lunch and tried to just force out some words. After clearing off my desk, I sat completely still for over a minute, just trying to come up with something. As always, I relied on physical reality to help me say something more interesting than just confessing my feelings. I mentioned sensations in my lips and eyes, and then turned to talking about the story of Christ's birth, also in sensory detail. As I wrote through the images I wanted to bring up, the poem became more vivid to me and started to take shape in my mind. I started pulling in references to the gospel story that might feel strange in this setting, such as the mention of blood and water and of women cleaning and binding his body, which both have connections to the story of Jesus' crucifixion. When I started to feel like I had described plenty and that any more description might start to get tedious, I gave another glimpse into my present moment with 2 very brief sentences. The shortness and similar stress pattern in these sentences I felt was a nice contrast with the much longer sentences that had comprised the previous 12 lines. This is a strategy I use often. Sentence length and structure is such a valuable tool to help shift the emotional weight of a poem's various moments. Throughout this piece, I did a lot of in-the-moment revision, and this increased as I neared the end. At this point, I felt more confident about what the poem was about, but I still felt very uncertain about how it would end. And it felt almost like I was cutting away overgrowth of ideas, all the thoughts spinning through my head that day, and approaching the poem as through a thick jungle. I could see glimpses of a whole idea, but I kept having to cut away more distractions. At this point, I even went back and revised multiple places in the poem, including the very first words, to get closer to what I wanted. But as I ran out of time and as other responsibilities started demanding my attention, like they do in the middle of a Friday afternoon, I wrapped up. I had spent as much time as I could spare staring at the last thing I'd written. It felt like a fine line to include in the poem, but not like the ending, and I still didn't quite know what to do with it. So I ended there and thought maybe this will just be a poem I don't like very well. But 2 days later, on Christmas Eve, I figured it out. It was a crazy day. We were baking cookies and preparing a big dinner, and everyone was too excited to amuse themselves. But I ran to my office, grabbed my trusty pen, and added the last 3 lines in 39 seconds. I'm not sure this poem is that good, and it certainly wasn't my usual creation process, but I'm so proud that I made the time for this little bit of creativity in a whirlwind of a week. Here's the first draft of Christmas Eve, written in a total of 33 minutes on December 22nd and 24th, 2023. Christmas Eve. Remember the Christ child. As I line my lips with bit-back barbs, my eyes with wet, unshed overwhelm, think, self, of God newborn, still glistening skin, blood and water streaked, as maiden mother strains to deliver the afterbirth. Think of his first yowl drawn out by the nameless, forgotten women who cleaned and bound his body at birth. I am weary. Advent grows heavy. Remember him who needed those like me, willing hands, stretch womb, full breasts wet for manna needing milk, curse crusher given shelter by her soft body. None so lowly. Sing glory in poverty, pain, and need. Almighty favor rests in women's arms. Remember Emmanuel, God with her, with us, even now, remember, with me. Thanks for watching this episode of Ars Poetica. If you enjoyed watching poetry happen, please like and subscribe. Then go make some art.